Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, and I'm joined by William Reeve, who is the boss man of Goodlord. And today I want to talk to him about what has actually happened at Goodlord with regard to the strike action. If you'd look back a few months ago, it seemed like Goodlord was fully at strike with banners outside and basically a hot back to the late 70s, early 80s of Maggie's Britain. William, what I want to find out today in less than 10 minutes is what exactly was the issue about, and how did it affect letting agents going forward? Because if you don't mind me saying, Goodlord is a very well thought of proptech supplier in the industry, and if you don't mind me saying, you did get a few broad shots across the bow. So, okay, give me give me some background to it. I want to hear your side of the story.
Well, Chris. Yeah, it's been all these things that there are two sides of the story, aren't there? And the frustration I think at our end is we've been really trying to do the right thing here, and you would never guess that from some of the media coverage that's happened. But we'd always been setting up our referencing operation to be very a blend between technology and people, and it's been growing so quickly that actually we've remained until the end of last year on the same temporary arrangements that we'd kicked off with when we set the team up over 4 years earlier, and we realised that we needed to make it more sustainable than that. And it was actually what we tried to do was create the right, stable, sustainable footing for the team for the long term, and make it a permanent team rather than based on temps, and make it a really competitive team, not based on temporary arrangements. And in the process of trying to do that, we obviously made some missteps, and we ended up with a big argument with about a dozen of our team. Team's now 100 people, so it was never what it was portrayed as by some in the media as a large part of the team out on strike. It was only ever a small minority on strike, but it was nonetheless a very disruptive period for us.
Now, if memory serves you well, because I've visited Goodlord Towers a few times, your guys are on 6-month contracts, and I've done some investigating on this one, and they were being charged. They were being paid on a 6-month contract, £22,000. Now that was a 6-month rolling contract. Did you kind of just drop it on them with like a week's notice to say, right, you're going on to permanent, we're going to drop your pay, or did you give them any notice on this?
No, so our people were a mixture of contracts. Actually, we had some people who were on daily contracts through an agency, just literally daily hourly rates, or practically gig economy things actually, but we were working with an agency for that. We had some people also who were on 6-month fixed term contracts, which were due to expire around Christmas time. And we wanted to give them as much notice as possible. So we gave them all almost 2 months notice that actually when those contracts expired, we weren't going to renew them with other temporary contracts. We were going to actually create a permanent set of opportunities. So we gave everybody a chance to go for one of the permanent roles instead, or if they didn't want one of the permanent roles, because the big change we were making there was to turn the team into a national team based at home rather than a team based in Goodlord Towers, as you call it, in East London. And that was a different arrangement. Knew it wouldn't suit everybody, and said, look, if you don't want to do that, you've got some choices. And we offered them money, or we offered them a chance to continue on those temporary contracts for 3 more months if they wanted to. But we said that's it. We're then going to be a permanent team.
Okay, so the people that were on the 6-month contracts, I believe, were being paid £22,000 a year, and the permanent contract was taking it down to 19, which, if you don't mind me saying, I know it might not be London living wage, but that's pretty good. But again,
the pay rates varied. Actually, it depended a bit on the roles and what you were doing, and what we were moving to though was a permanent living wage, real living wage, which is higher than anybody else in the referencing industry offers actually. But we were doing that from an arrangement where people have been on a temporary basis, often on a daily rate. And
but again, I don't know about you, Chris. If you're on a daily contract rate, you don't get sick pay, you don't get holiday pay.
Exactly. No.
Maternity leave, which has got to be worth something, hasn't it?
Yeah, and part of what we did was make sure that there were good benefits in place and the sort of same level of security that you'd expect in a normal arrangement, which of course wasn't available when they were on temporary fixed term contracts. But we ended up, I mean, actually in part of the initial part of the dispute, we moved to make the benefits even better. So we ended up with we've got, I think, the best parental leave benefits in the industry. For example, we give 13 weeks. We gave better sick pay arrangements. We have more holiday arrangements than our competitors. It's a very good package, and we've had lots of people applying for these jobs from actually, among other things, some of our competitors.
I mean, what is particularly interesting is that they don't actually have to go into East London all the time. I mean, how many jobs have you created since this all, happened?
We've created over 40 jobs, permanent roles. The team's about over 100 people now, and many of those people are based all over the place. Actually, we've got it's a majority now outside London.
Okay, so I appreciate you probably can't say this, but do you think that the Unite Union were probably politicising this a little bit too much?
Look, I think I don't want to go into the specifics of why and what they said, but I think that we have been up against kind of political activism rather than an actual dispute about pounds, shillings, and pence, as my grandmother would have put it.
Well, it's interesting that if it's gone from 22 to 19, but you're getting parental leave of all those weeks sick time, then it's not the headline; it's the net overall package. And
no, and actually, for a lot of people in our team, even though the fixed number is about 19, actually we offer incentive top-ups on top based on what they get done that week, and most people are earning more than even the London living wage, actually, even though they're not based in London. So it really hasn't so much been the money. It's been more I think the argument's been more of a political one.
So therefore, let's come back to letting agents. It's business as usual. You've increased the number of people in the referencing department by 40%, taking them from around 100 to about 140.
No, sorry. No, the team's gone from more like 60 to more like 100.
Okay.
We managed to ensure that the service was unaffected by this. The total Goodlord group is over 200 people now. So we ended up with only 9 people on strike. So we were able to make sure that there was no impact to the operation and the service levels. And if you were to see our kind of management accounts or our service levels, our service metrics or customer feedback, you wouldn't be able to see this. You wouldn't see where the strike was.
I pride myself in listening to the industry, and no one's actually said anything. Do you think in hindsight you could have dealt with it better? I know hindsight's a beautiful thing.
Hindsight is the perfect thing, isn't it? And certainly with hindsight, I would do a few things differently. And I think we, as I said, I don't know actually that the arguments were about money. They're more probably about they were more about how it was communicated and the level of the level of activism probably that kind of we probably didn't anticipate in the business, which we would have probably found a different way to deal with if we'd had foresight.
And what message would you give to other proptech suppliers who might be coming potentially against this in the future as the gig economy changes? And
look, I think we're all breaking new ground here. I think moving teams from London to national remote working is a new thing. None of us really would have contemplated that before the working from home boom of the pandemic. I think that the kind of the lockdown has had all sorts of unintended consequences and will continue to have unintended consequences. And I think for all of us who are trying to innovate and find new ways of working, some of that stuff can be quite hard to predict. I think if you've got a flexible workforce, and if you're communicating clearly with people about what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, and you're being fair with people and being competitive with people and not trying to penny pinch, I think you're in as good a position as possible. But I did think we were trying to do the right thing and doing the right thing last year, and obviously didn't come across that way to everybody. So I'd say you have to expect the unexpected.
I think the magic thing is I've always found William absolutely exceptional. So find him on LinkedIn and reach out to him. I'm sure I know you're a busy man, but you'll be able to spend 10 or 15 minutes with any proptech suppliers watching this who are potentially might be addressing this issue soon. William, thank you for your time today. As you know, Goodlord is one of my favorite proptech suppliers, even though I've not been paid to say that, but if anything I love, or my clients love, I do shout about it. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for putting some spotlight on that. And for those of you that were made unfortunate, that were not with Goodlord anymore, I wish you well in your future. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for listening.